As much as I love time-traveling samurais, kindergartners fighting giant monsters, and sentient pant-wearing sponges, sometimes it's good to just indulge in slice-of-life stories like the ones in Hey Arnold. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, there was a rising interest in cartoons exploring more grounded themes and stories known as slice of life. And cartoons like Rugrats, Rocket Power, As Told by Ginger, and Hey Arnold all fulfilled that niche. Hey Arnold focuses around 4th grader Arnold Shortman, whose parents Miles and Stella abandoned him when he was a 1-year-old to go to San Lorenzo, thus living his life with his paternal grandparents Phil and Gertie, proprietors of the Sunset Arms boarding house. Arnold attends PS 118 along with several other students, including his best friend Gerald, who is instantly recognizable in his red shirt with the number 33 on it. And Helga, who acts hostile towards the football-headed protagonist, yet is absolutely and maybe even obsessively in love with Arnold. Now, in each episode, Arnold typically helps one of his schoolmates solve a problem or deals with one of his own predicaments. Hey Arnold premiered on October 7th, 1996, but this was not actually the first time we saw Arnold. In fact, the show's conception dates back to the 1980s when it was made out of clay by the creator Craig Bartlett, who was also responsible for the penny short claymations on CBS's Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I just thought it'd be really funny. I thought, what if he was really kind of low to the ground, had a really wide head and just massive hair, and his eyes were way out here, and I was kind of trying to be kind of radical. That was all just part of me trying to make a distinctive design. Matt Groening, my brother-in-law, he told me early on, he said, an important thing about character design is to make them work even in silhouette. So if you were to see them in a dark, you'd be like, oh, there's Arnold. And I really took that to heart.
Craig Bartlett shot Arnold on a glass panel in his living room and produced 3 shorts. The shorts showcased Arnold as a rich prep school kid with a vivid imagination who would constantly daydream and then be snapped out of it later, hence, Hey Arnold. Later, Arnold also made his comic debut in The Simpsons Illustrated magazine from 1991 to 1993. Later on, when Bartlett was working at Klasky Csupo Inc. as a story editor on Rugrats, he teamed up with 5 writers from Rugrats to develop more animation projects for Nickelodeon, which eventually led to the creation of Hey Arnold.
We all got together and just said, hey, let's create shows, 6 of us. And we put together ideas for 4 or 5 show ideas, and we went to meet with Mary Harrington. So all 6 of us pile into her office one day. So we pitched our ideas and nothing. Mary's like, meh. And so I got out a tape, a VHS cassette of my sample reel with Penny.
Yeah.
And it had on the front of it the little claymation Arnold shorts. And she goes, wait, who's this? And she watched, Arnold escape from church, and she said, what, have you got more of this guy? And I had my comics. I had the Simpsons Illustrated magazines that had like a Sunday Funnies formatted, 8-panel Arnold adventure. And she loved those. And one of them, Arnold rides a roller coaster, this terrifying roller coaster, and everyone's screaming, and he's just like deadpan. You see all 7 first panels of that. Then you see him walk home, and you see his house at night and the moon, and then he sits up in bed and screams.
Yeah.
And that drawing of him screaming, she's like, this is funny. Let's talk about this. And Paul said, mark my words, this is going to be a show.
After creating ideas for Arnold, Bartlett began work on the supporting characters, drawing influence from his actual childhood. The show also evolved from claymation to cell animation, but apart from this obvious difference in animation styles, Nick's Arnold had to change his appearance to a sweater over an untucked plaid shirt instead of a kilt. But he did get to keep his iconic cap. And with these changes, the show made its debut as an animated short for the Nickelodeon film Harriet the Spy in July of 1996. Production on the show started in August 1995 and ended on December 7, 2001, after 100 episodes and 1 theatrical film, but the very last episodes were not aired until 2004. And also, for a brief period, a spin-off series called The Patakis was actually planned. The premise was to focus on Helga Pataki in her teenage years and her family, but that never actually materialized. During its life, the show focused on less fantastical plots involving very grounded characters with very realistic problems like unemployment, alcoholism, obesity, creepy relatives, cosplaying grandmas, monkey vigilantes, and a flying pigeon man. Okay, fine. The show occasionally featured bizarre characters. But I think that's only partially what the show was about. It was also about Arnold giving loners and weirdos a chance. Many episodes featured mistreated characters due to prejudice of their appearance or actions. Arnold was always the first to try to understand those characters and help them, even if it doesn't always lead anywhere. In fact, I would compare Arnold to Charlie Brown from Peanuts by Charles Schulz. I mean, Charlie can never hit a football but continues to play. He can never fly a kite but never gives up. Arnold also fails time and time again, but still learns a valuable lesson and perseveres.
It'll be a Charlie Brown for the 90s. It'll be, an ensemble cast of kids, eccentric, funny kids. Arnold will be the Charlie Brown, but he'll be the super calm center. He's not the loser that Charlie Brown is. He's just this Zen little Buddha.
Although Arnold succeeds in his quest more often than not, his victories often don't make much of an impact. Like when Arnold tried to help Chocolate Boy get rid of his addiction to chocolate, only for him to gain addiction to radishes. Or the time Arnold tried to convince Pigeon Man, a man who lives exclusively in isolation surrounded by his pigeons, that humans could be trusted only to witness the destruction of his home by the hands of Arnold's bullies, causing the Pigeon Man to utter possibly the saddest lines ever said on Hey Arnold.
Of course they'll come back. They're birds. I trust them. I understand them. It's people I don't understand.
But despite that, he acknowledges Arnold as a trustworthy person. Pigeon Man is then flown by dozens of pigeons toward the sun. Now, some theorize that this episode's ending was an allegory for suicide, and thus giving birth to a rumor claiming that this episode's original script actually had him commit suicide by jumping off the building, but Nickelodeon executives rejected this ending due to its morbidity and depressing themes. So instead, they revised it to Arnold blocking the suicide out of his mind by imagining Vincent flying off into the sun. And here is what the creator himself had to say about that.
None of that happened. I mean, we never thought that he committed suicide. What happened was, Harold and Stinky and Sid, or Joey actually, came up there and tore down his stuff. He was really disappointed and wanted to leave this town because he was just so sick of, stuff like that happening. And he hooks up all of his pigeons and flies away. Arnold says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to go to another place where I can help pigeons."
The show was also notable for being one of the first modern animated series to use child or teenage voice actors for most child characters in order to add a more authentic childhood vibe for the series. The actors also recorded their lines all together in the same room, which was another uncommon practice for the animated series. Moreover, characters such as Arnold and Eugene were played by multiple actors throughout the series due to their previous voice actors going through vocal changes. Now, on the other hand, it worked out fantastic for Rhonda and Helga, who maintained the same voice talents for the duration of the series, and as their voices became deeper as the series progressed, it gave the illusion of them maturing. Now, what also made Hey Arnold stand out was its rich urban setting. Neighbors of varying ages, races, nationalities, and income levels inhabit Hillwood City, a fictional amalgam of Portland, Seattle, and Brooklyn. Now, the show takes place in the 1990s, yet it includes various technologies and vehicles from different eras, including Arnold's awesome-tacular bedroom, which also gives visual diversity to the neighborhood. The city feels vibrant and romantic, with themes of ethnic heritage, urban decline and revival, all while accompanied by Jim Lang's acid jazz.
Arnold is going to be jazzy, but it won't be Vince Guaraldi jazz, which was piano, bass, drums. And let's come up with a new jazz sound. And he had me listen to a lot of acid jazz, which was traditional jazz instruments like sax and stuff over manufactured hip-hop beats. And so that was it. We had a really more gritty, more grungy, funkier sound than Charlie Brown, and we had the urban setting.
Now let's talk about the show's central theme, family. I gotta point out that the series' definition goes beyond who you are biologically related to. Family is simply people you care for and love. Arnold lives with his grandparents, but he also frequently interacts with his wacky residents who he cares for as deeply as a real family. And even though Arnold's parents are missing, they are still a major part of his family. He keeps them close by always wearing the blue hat that his father gave him as a baby. And this symbolizes that no matter where your family is, they are still a part of you. This theme is also explored in the more traditional families like the Johansons. When Gerald moves to the Sunset Arms boarding house in order to be rid of his annoying family and Gerald moves out, he realizes just how much he really loves all of them despite just how much they peeve him. He tries to hide this from his family when they come to visit, but he eventually breaks down, runs back home, and asks to stay. And fortunately, his family welcomes him back with loving, open arms. Even Helga's seemingly dysfunctional family, to whom she often refers to by their first names since she does not deem them worthy of being called mom and dad, still cares deeply for her even when it might not seem like they do. In Arnold's Thanksgiving, Helga gets fed up with her alcoholic mom constantly ignoring her, and her dad frequently confusing her with her sister Olga, so she runs away and wanders about the city. She eventually has a heart-to-heart with Arnold and returns home to her parents and sister in sheer panic over her disappearance. Seeing this, she realizes that even though they may not always show it, they do really love her and would do anything to ensure her safety. I mean, Bob and Helga occasionally bond over their joy for wrestling or ridiculing melodramatic theater. And in The Beeper Queen, Miriam packs Helga an exceptional lunch, shares stories, and even helps her with her homework. To no surprise, there are many friendships explored throughout the series. However, it's primarily focused on Gerald and Arnold, one of Nickelodeon's greatest bromances. They were best friends since preschool, had a super awesome thumb handshake, and shared a love for music and all things funky. However, their biggest test of friendship comes in Part-Time Friends, in which they both work together in Miss Vitello's flower shop. Arnold is excellent with flower arrangements, and Gerald is great with money handling and the business end of things. When Miss Vitello injures her back, she gives Gerald the responsibility of keeping the business running. This leads to an abuse of power by Gerald and pangs of jealousy within Arnold. The two end up having a huge argument, leading to several days of silent treatment between the two. But eventually, the two conclude that it would be petty for them to end their friendship over jealousy. Similarly, Helga and Phoebe experience their own test of friendship in Phoebe Skips. When Phoebe is offered to skip the 6th grade, Helga gets scared that she won't be able to find a new best friend. So, Helga warns her that the 6th graders will probably pick her on, as Helga tends to put it. Her warning not only unsuccessfully stops Phoebe from skipping grades, but she also fails to find a new friend to replace her. Now, Phoebe, on the other hand, is taken advantage of by the 6th grade girls and ends up emotionally hurt. But in the end, the two have an emotional heart-to-heart in the girls' bathroom after a tearful Phoebe overhears Helga's monologue expressing her regret for not supporting her best friend. Throughout this conversation, Helga finally admits that Phoebe is her best friend, and Phoebe admits the same. It's actually one of my all-time favorite scenes of the show. Hey Arnold even has plenty of people that make great sacrifices for the people they love. Like Helga, who frequently goes against her parents' wishes or sacrifices what she wants to help Arnold. Just like how she helped to save the neighborhood, even though it meant sacrificing a massive amount of wealth for her family and her father's success. Or giving up the one thing she wanted for Christmas in order to give Arnold a Christmas miracle. But a heartbreaking example of sacrifice comes in the episode Arnold's Christmas, when Arnold is assigned to be Mr. Wynn's Secret Santa. The problem is that Mr. Wynn is mysteriously always lonely this time of year. Later in the episode, it is revealed that around Christmas time during the Vietnam War, he had to let go of his daughter so she could live a better life at the expense of never seeing her again. Through the sacrifices that various characters make on the show, we learn what it means to care for someone more than yourself. The reality painted by Hey Arnold is that life gets tough, things break down, and on some occasions, all on the same day. But we should always strive for positivity, and as Grandma put it,
gotta look up, you gotta be strong, you gotta take things as they come. 'Cause everything new that happens to you is better when you look up.
Just thinking back to all the great moments and all the great episodes of Hey Arnold, it just makes me feel like I have something in both my eyes. So while I search for a tissue for these allergies, be sure to like and subscribe before checking out the links of our Patreon, merch, and social media in the description. Now, where are those goddamn tissues?